Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to another episode of the ACSS News broadcast on sanctions against Russia. We will cover the latest news on sanctions against Russia and guide you through what's happening in this world of sanctions and why it matters for your business. My name is Saskia Rietbroek, and I am the Executive Director of the Association of Certified Sanction Specialists, or ACSS. Please visit our website at sanctionsassociation.org. All right, in this broadcast, we provide a daily summary of the latest developments regarding the ongoing conflict in the Ukraine. And we normally primarily focus on either the US, EU, or UK sanctions. And in this episode, we will cover what happened in the US. Yesterday, there were new US sanctions. So we will focus on these sanctions today. So what did they do? Basically, to me, it was interesting because there were several things that happened. They did not issue a new executive order, but basically they expanded an older one by issuing a so-called Russia-related determination. So, I mean, if you're sort of familiar with all the terms, you have executive orders, you have regulations, but this was something else. It was basically a determination that they call it, that expanded the scope of an older executive order, namely 14024, that came out almost a year ago in April last year. And basically, this was a half-page letter, this determination, signed by the Secretary of Treasury, Janet Yellen. And so it basically expanded an older executive order. So this older executive order from last year said that the government can impose sanctions on people that operate or have operated in the technology sector or the defense and related materials sector in Russia. Or, and here it comes, this is where the expansion comes in, any other sector of the Russian Federation economy as may be determined, determination letter, by the Secretary of Treasury in consultation with the Secretary of State. So this last phrase, to determine that more sectors will be covered by this executive order, that's what happened yesterday. So Treasury determined that 3 new sectors of the Russian Federation economy are subject to these sanctions pursuant to Executive Order 14024. Now, which new sectors? Aerospace, marine, and electronics. So we already had defense and technology. So now we have defense technology, aerospace, marine, and electronics. And this is important because that means that sanctions can be imposed on any individual or entity that the US government thinks or determines to operate or have operated in any of these sectors. So you don't have to do anything wrong. Just working in these sectors will be enough for the government to impose new sanctions on any party in these sectors. Have they done that in the past under this, executive order? Yes, they have. So they designated last year some companies operating in the technology sector of the Russian Federation economy to under this executive order, just for operating in the technology sector. So this opens a door to new designations in the marine aerospace, in the marine and the aerospace and electronic sector. So that was an important development, I thought, and we'll have to see what companies are being listed. And of course, if you haven't done this already in your risk assessment, aerospace, marine, and electronics, of course, as a sector, should have an increased risk rating. So that was one thing, right, that happened. What else happened? So in a separate action, OFAC also targeted a sanctions evasion network, and they have a nice chart explaining this network and all the companies that are related, and several Russian technology companies. So the operators in the technology sector were, according to Treasury, involved in sanctions evasion, and they were trying to procure important or critical Western technology. And OFAC designated 21 entities and 13 individuals as part of this crackdown on this sanctions evasion network. So who were targeted? A couple of companies I want to mention. One of them is joint stock company Micron. This is Russia's largest manufacturer and exporter of microelectronics, as well as its biggest chip maker. So this company, I read, helped, for example, to develop Russia's national payment card system, which was put together in Russia after previous rounds of sanctions. So that is one company that was designated on the OFAC list. Another new entry on the OFAC list is a company called AONII Vector. And this is a St. Petersburg-based technology or software company that supports satellite systems for Russia. And this company is likely tracking ships, aircraft, and ground vehicles during the invasion in the Ukraine. So they've been listed on the OFAC list. Another company is like a hardware company and a research institute called Molecular Electronics Research Institute, or MERI, which does work for the Russian government. Another company that was listed is the Moscow-based company Ocernia Engineering. And this is an interesting company because, according to Treasury, it is at the center of a network that seeks to evade sanctions. There are several people and companies involved with this network that have all been listed. And this network, it operates across several countries, and they hide Russian military and intelligence agency end users when they buy Western technology. So these companies were designated, and they, So I was thinking, how do they, how do they hide the involvement of the Russian military end user, right? It's not that easy. And basically an old trick, right? They use front companies. So that's what I said. There was this nice chart on the OFAC website that explains these front companies involved with this company, Cernia. And these front companies are in several countries, in Russia, of course, but also in the UK and in Spain. So these are the front companies that have also been designated, utilized by Cernia to facilitate its procurement of equipment for the Russian government. And they didn't only sanction the company, but also its top executives and board members, which of course is very important to hit the executives as well. And then one more thing that OFAC did, they also designated several Russian government malicious cyber actors, as they call them. So these included sanctions on Russians who were involved in an attack in 2017, a cyber attack on a Middle Eastern petrochemical facility. And they don't mention the name, but I think it relates to the attack on Aramco, the Saudi Arabia national oil company at that time, which, by the way, first I think they thought it was the Iranians who did that. And I guess later they realized it was the Russians. So more people were added to the OFAC list that were involved in this attack, including people from this research institute that I mentioned earlier. So what do these sanctions mean? Of course, the assets are blocked in the US, but does it hurt? Well, it typically takes a while, right, for these sanctions to really have an impact, and it's not immediate. So especially when you have these, large networks and supply chains, it will take time for these Russian businesses to feel the disruption. And I think another important impact is that the U.S. Treasury can now designate new actors in these new sectors that they added to this older executive order from last year. Feels very old, right? With everything new going on. So these new sectors, the marine, including the marine and the aerospace sector, we'll see probably more sanctioned players, more sanctioned entities than before. And of course, this shows again the commitment of the U.S. government to, counter the evasion of sanctions. And there are some, I think more things to come in that respect. So anyway, so this was I think the most important development from yesterday. And I look forward to your comments to see if we have any comments or questions. See, Renato, if we have any questions in the chat. All right, no further questions. So it's Friday afternoon. It's happy hour here in the Netherlands. So it's a good time to wrap up. And I want to thank everybody for joining live. And I also want to thank those who attend this session later on demand. And I'll see you back on Monday. Bye-bye.